Thank you for that introduction, Noreen. Thanks to all of you for coming, bringing your huskies and leaving them downstairs. I can hear them barking down there. And thank you, Noreen, and the Center for Fiction for doing events like this, which are the heartbeat for novelists, and it means a lot, so thank you. David and I met up together tonight beforehand, and we found out that we were both reading parts of our books that we've never read before, for no particular reasons, except that we've never read them and we wanted to hear ourselves reading them out loud. So I'm reading from the middle of my book, SPARTA, and it's a section in which the main character, Conrad Farrell, who's a 26-year-old Marine who's come home from Iraq, is going out to dinner for the first time with his girlfriend, Claire, and their relationship is very uncertain. She has sort of broken up with him, and then they've gotten back together, and neither one of them is sure exactly where they stand. So they go to a restaurant together. They stood by the front door, and a young man came up carrying menus. He was clean and preppy, though his cheeks were dark with a 2-day stubble. "Good evening," he was ostentatiously friendly. "Do you have a reservation?" Farrell. Conrad found the dirty-looking stubble distasteful. In the Marines, you were required to be clean-shaven. Stubble made you look like a slacker or a terrorist. "We asked for a table by the wall." "Right, follow me." Friendly turned with a flourish and began threading his way through the tables. They were very close together. It was impossible not to brush against the chairs as they passed through, though Conrad tried. They stopped at a table near the wall, and Friendly pulled out a chair. "I actually asked for a table by the wall," Conrad said. "Right," Friendly said. "This is the closest we have right now." He bared his teeth in a professional smile. "I did call a couple of hours ago," Conrad said. "As I say, this is the closest we have right now." "So, when I asked for a table by the wall and I was told I'd have one, what was that?" "As I said, sir, this is all we have right now. If you'd like to wait at the bar, we'd be glad to let you know when one of these others opens up." Friendly's tone was brisk, glared with a layer of official courtesy. Underneath that was a deep current of condescension. Why would you tolerate the fact that you were a waiter and subservient to customers, unless you believed that on some level you were better than they? And here was why you were better than they. The customer was a dick, and you were not. And the more the customer protested, the more that fundamental belief became apparent. Conrad studied him. "Do you want to leave?" Claire asked. He could hear in her voice that she did not. "No, it's fine." He nodded at Friendly with dislike. Conrad sat down with his back toward the wall. Friendly handed them menus. "Have a good evening." He swept away, the heels of his tassel loafers clicking on the wooden floor. Conrad looked around. The door to the kitchen was on his right, the bar beyond. The door to the street straight ahead. Outside, beyond the plate glass windows, the sidewalk streamed with people. Behind him were 2 tables, people talking. He couldn't see them. This made him uncomfortable, the low, constant rattle out of sight. In front of him was a sea of tables, young couples, older couples, middle-aged women. The noise was cacophonous. After they ordered drinks, Conrad asked, "So, tell me something. Was that guy being offensive?" Claire said, "Do you want to leave? If you want to leave, we'll leave." "No," he said, "we're not leaving." "Is this really hard for you?" What he didn't want was to seem damaged. "No, it's okay," he said. It's different from what I've been used to." He was working on 2 fronts. He was keeping the noise away from his brain. He was focusing on making it small, erasing it, and making himself seem normal. He knew he could do this because he had been normal before. "What would you like to talk about?" he asked. He was going to be normal. So now we jump a little bit, and he says, "So where are we?" he asked. "You and me. Am I in or out?" Claire looked at her wine glass. I don't exactly know, said Claire. I don't know what to say. I feel like we've gone back and forth. So splitting up after you left and then sort of getting back together? Sort of? Yeah, said Claire, it was sort of. For me it was. I mean, I still love you, but it's not the same as it was in college. You know, I went out with other guys. I felt like we were cousins or something. I loved you. And then when you deployed, I wanted to be there for you. Until you didn't. Well, you were so strange when you came back that time. I felt like I didn't know you. So you dumped me. He hadn't meant to say this. He was trying not to be angry. Her eyes flicked up at him. I didn't dump you. What would you call it? I told you what I called it. I had to pull back. I couldn't write love letters to someone who scared me. So you dumped me. I didn't dump you. I went on writing, but I couldn't pretend. And it seemed like we weren't aligned. We were asymmetrical. Ah, Conrad nodded. We couldn't have that. Asymmetry. That would be wrong. He could feel this unrolling ahead of him, how it was going to go. It was going to go wrong. Conrad, she said, what do you want? Were you fucking someone else? Her face went bright and stricken as though he'd hit her. What do you want to know? She asked. Exactly what it is that you want to know. You stupid fuck, he thought. You stupid, stupid fuck. Now you've done it. He paused, trying to steady himself. He was trying to withdraw from anger, trying to unlink himself from the bullying, hectoring, harrying self that took over. The stupid fuck that was going to wreck everything. But who was there who was going to take his place? Thank you.
Hi. So I'm the nonfiction guy. And I have to tell you, walking into the Center for Fiction is sort of the same feeling I had when I landed in Baghdad for the first time, wondering who I'm surrounded by. The thing is, so I'm going to read a passage from this book. Thank you for your service. And in some ways, of course, it's trying to do the same thing as what you just heard. It's trying not only to describe something, but to evoke something. And the difference is, my books, well, there are many differences. One difference is my books are most of all acts of reporting. They are, I hope, agenda-free. They're based on observed reporting, embedding somewhere and trying to bring something to life by observing, collecting data, documents or whatever, and then taking this pile of chronology and turning it into some kind of narrative. So I went to Iraq in early 2007 when the surge was announced, and to spend a deployment with an infantry battalion out of Fort Riley, Kansas, Army Infantry. And basically, you know, the deal was I stayed with them through their 15-month deployment, and then I didn't want to write a book necessarily about the Iraq War, but to use the war to write more intimately about the character of 800 young men who were sent into war at what was presumed to be a tragic moment. That book was called The Good Soldiers, and then after that was published, some of the guys started getting in touch with me and saying they were home now, they were feeling a little unsteady, depressed, anxious, not sleeping well. It evolved into some suicide attempts, and it became clear there was a second half of the story to tell. If I was trying to intimately document this particular war or these young men, then I should try to write the second half of the story, what happened after they came home. So that's this new book, Thank You for Your Service. So the part I want to read, we'll see how this goes, but there's a guy named Adam Schumann, was in the first book and is also probably the main character, if you will, in the second book. And one of the things that sent Adam Schumann out of the war and home early was a day early in the deployment when another guy, a guy named Michael Emery, was shot in the head by a sniper. And Adam Schumann brought him down 3 flights of stairs so he could be medevaced out. And as it happens, Emery, well, he should be dead, but he didn't die. He wasn't expected to talk, but he talks. He wasn't expected to walk, but he walks. Paralyzed pretty much on his left-hand side, but kept recovering. It was sort of the Army version of this word you hear, resilience. And he went home after he finally was treated for a long time. He went home to this rather isolated and lonesome life in Georgia. Adam Schumann, meanwhile, things finally caught up with him after 1,000 days in combat, 3 tours. He had to go home with PTSD to Kansas. And various things happened, but at one point, you know, Emery got in touch with Schumann on Facebook and said he wanted to come visit. And these were 2 guys in their own way who had been brought together in this very bloody, crucial moment, and they hadn't seen each other since. And so Michael Emery came to visit Adam Schumann in Kansas, and I hope this will not take terribly long, but here's some of what happened when Michael Emery came out to Kansas to see Adam Schumann. The next morning, Adam knocks on Michael's hotel door to take him to breakfast. He can hear Michael moving around inside. He knocks again. Eventually the door opens, and there's Michael dressed only in shorts. Hungry? Adam asks him. Yeah, I gotta get dressed first, Michael says, and it takes a moment for Adam to realize he needs help. If you don't mind. Nope, Adam says, how's it work? He comes into the hotel room, and Michael shows him one of his braces next to his cane. It is the one to hold his useless left arm in place, like a sling of sorts. Michael sits in the chair. His hair is buzzed short, and chunks of it are missing where he is scarred. He has another scar on his neck from the tracheotomy and a rectangular lump on his back, inside of which is a pump that pushes out doses of a drug to help reduce his spasticity. Tentatively, Adam slides the brace up Michael's arm and tightens the straps across his back, just under his shoulder blades. Like that? Yeah, Michael says. How tight do you want it? Snug. Adam tightens the straps more. God damn, that's gotta be uncomfortable all day. Yeah, it is, Michael says. Make it a little tighter. Okay, Adam says. Next, he kneels and straps the second brace around Michael's lower leg. Snug, Michael says again, and Adam tightens that too. He helps Michael into a t-shirt. He ties Michael's shoes. He helps with the third brace, which has been designed to keep Michael's fingers from curling into a claw. Can you move your fingers, he asks. No, Michael says, and then reconsidering the mystery of who he has become, says, if I yawn, they'll move a bit. So that gives me hope. And when I ejaculate, my foot twitches. Adam looks at that foot now, which he is glad to see is as steady as can be. Bit by bit, he is getting used to this man. He straightens up. Does one side of your dick not work, he asks. No, it works fine, Michael says, laughing. He's getting used to Adam, too. The ride home from the airport has started awkwardly. Well, the weather's supposed to be pretty good this weekend, Adam said, once he got Michael in the car. You hot? Cold? I'm all right, Michael said. This drive takes forever, it seems like, Adam said after some silence. 10 minutes down at that point. 2 hours to go until Junction City. But Michael hadn't come all this way not to talk about what had happened. And soon he was saying, my first deployment, I didn't get a scratch on me. My second more than made up for it. And Adam, who talks to no one, not his wife Saskia, according to Saskia, not therapists, according to therapists, also wanted to talk. Yeah, my first 2 were good. The third one broke me mentally, he said. I went through a suicidal stage, Michael said. At one point, I tried to bite through my wrists. I heard about that. It made me sick. It made me sick. I feel like I'm responsible for that, Adam said. But you're not, I know. And it was at that point that Michael told Adam what he remembered of that day, that he kept saying, my head hurts. And Adam kept saying, you'll be all right. And that once Adam got him down 3 flights of stairs and he'd been placed on a litter, Adam tripped over something, nearly dropped him. Adam remembered that too. He remembered all of it. He remembered that the gunshot seemed the loudest he had ever heard in his 3 deployments and 1,000 days of combat. He remembered running with his 80 pounds of gear up to the roof of the building. He remembered grabbing a corner of the litter Michael had been put on, and that Michael kept rolling off it as he went into and out of consciousness, making it impossible to maneuver him down the stairs. He remembered putting the litter down, stripping off his gear, and telling some other soldiers to hoist Michael onto his back. He remembered the sudden, dead weight of this dying man. He remembered his mouth filling with blood and gulping for air as he moved down the stairs, and his mouth filling again. He remembered the taste of the blood, the smell of the blood, the heat of the blood, and the wet of the blood as it spilled down his chin and onto his uniform, and through his uniform and onto his skin. He remembered helping to lay Michael back on the litter at the bottom of the stairs and saying, you'll be all right. He remembered picking up the end with Michael's head, which was the slippery end, and his legs turning to jelly as he stepped through the door, and he remembered the rest of it too, tripping over something unseen, Michael falling, the floor a few inches away, the coming crack, the coming thud, the coming death blow, the coming blame, and somehow he lunged and caught Michael in time and spent the rest of the day feeling ashamed. None of which he said to Michael, just, you were a big motherfucker, man. How much did you weigh, 230? 225, Michael said. Yeah, I almost didn't recognize you. From then to now, Adam said. A lot has changed, Michael said. Now, the next morning, after helping Michael get dressed, holding doors open for him, closing doors for him, getting him into and out of a car and into a restaurant booth, Adam listens as Michael makes a confession. When I got out of my coma, I began having all these nightmares about your dropping me, he says. Adam looks at him, stricken. I'm fucking with you, man, Michael says. And tells him the real dream he had. I don't know if it was your hand, DeLay's hand, or Stern's hand, but I had all these nightmares about a hand drenched in blood, and I would wake up screaming. I was covered in blood head to toe that day, Adam says. My psychologist said this might be good for both of us because the last time you saw me at my worst, Michael says. All day, my guys kept asking me, you think he's going to be all right, Adam says. I look at it as shit happens. It wasn't my time, Michael says, and gives Adam some advice. Don't ever try to bite your wrist. That shit hurts. He laughs again and digs into his breakfast. Lots of eggs, lots of potatoes, lots of ketchup on those potatoes. Adam watches. He's not hungry. Let's go fishing, man, he says after a while. In the car now, Michael holds out his right hand, the one he bit, toward Adam. He wishes he could have tried it on his left hand, he says, because he wouldn't have felt his teeth and might have been able to finish, but the right one was the one he could lift to his mouth. Adam takes Michael's hand. I appreciate it, Michael says. Adam's eyes redden and fill with tears. Somebody had to do it, he says.